Welcome to Beyond Investments with your host, Seth Leishman of Ostro Financial Consultants. Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but its accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. Neither LPL Financial nor the hosts of this show or accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Ostro Financial Consultants, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. Today's guest, Rick Fisher, is a financial advisor with Ostro Financial Consultants, National Planning member SIPC. And now, Beyond Investments, here's your host, Seth Leishman.
Good morning and welcome to Beyond Investments here on News Talk KNCO AM 830. Seth Leishman and Rick Fisher here from Ostro Financial. Excited to be here.
Hello, everyone.
Another beautiful Nevada County week.
Yes, it has been. I had a great weekend, too.
Yes.
Did you stay around or did
I
you?
did.
I was out of town.
Yeah, I was here. It was beautiful all weekend long. Had the pleasure of watching my daughter cheer at the football game for NU down at, I think it's called River Valley, maybe? River Valley down in Yuba City.
Okay. Did you guys win?
And NU won, yeah.
Varsity, junior varsity?
I watched varsity because that's who she cheers for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because she's a senior?
Because she's a junior.
Junior, okay.
Yeah, so...
Is this her first... Well, she's done cheer all 4 years? Or all 3 years at this point?
She missed freshman year.
Okay.
Because we didn't know that you had to try out and do all the stuff at like the end of 8th grade. We had no idea that by June of your 8th grade, by the time you finish 8th grade, you actually already have to be going over to the cheer tryouts and stuff.
Probably because they need to probably practice all summer.
Oh, yeah.
Learn all the routines.
Exactly. Turns out I didn't know that.
Okay, well, now you do. So is your number 2 daughter, she into cheer?
Zero interest.
Okay, so this is going to be a one-time thing.
She's negative interest.
Negative interest.
Like is push away from cheer as far as possible. Which is wonderful. She has her own interests. She has her own things that she loves.
Absolutely.
You know? Exactly how it should be.
Yeah, even I went down to Napa Valley for a wine release dinner. It was very good. Beautiful weather. It was in the 80s. It was sunny. And we stayed at this nice little, I guess we would call it a bed and breakfast, Airbnb, whatever you want to call it, called the Farmhouse Inn.
Okay.
Little house. House built in 1870. It's on 3 acres. And if you close your eyes, you will pass it up. You must have passed it up 2 or 3 times. They said it's tricky to get there because it's right on 29.
Yeah.
So the traffic is moving right along, and it's tucked way back. But
so you
had a nice time.
Ready.
Yes. And we got to visit the grandkids. So what we did to cut down the drive a little bit is we drove down Thursday night, stayed with the grandkids, and then we had to leave first thing in the morning. So they were a little bummed.
Okay.
But then they came up for another reason, so we got to see them again. So that was nice. Good. That was nice. Bought some good wine.
Oh, very good.
And now I'm back at work.
And now back to the grind.
Well, it's not quite a grind. I enjoy working
really
here.
A grind, exactly. We've got some news. This week looks like inflation number kicked up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we were hoping for. But it is what it is.
But I heard
that what's happening. A lot of it driven by gas prices, of course.
Right. But I heard that the Fed might ignore that little tick.
That's going to be the wonder, right? Is next week when they go to release interest rates, what are they going to do? Leave them the same? Are they going to pause, raise? Who knows?
Yeah, I've heard, again, just like everything else in this business, you ask 10 different analysts and you get at least 5 different answers. There's those who will say,
5? I thought you were going to say you were going to ask 10 different analysts to get 13 answers.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if there are that many answers. They're either going to stay the course and not stay the course or pause. There's not 13 choices.
No, that's true. That's true. Although you could have an analyst give you 2 different answers in the same response.
That's true.
I've seen that happen many times. They give you an answer and then they talk themselves into the other answer partway through. It's pretty funny. But let's dive right in. So you got some trivia this week?
I do, not a ton, but I do have some. So
very good.
This week, so the week of September 11th, a somber day.
It was.
It's sort of like when I was a kid, it was December 7th. But I couldn't really relate to it because I wasn't born yet.
Right.
But my parents could. And then September 11th, you just say that date, and we all know where we were.
That's right.
And it's a day to reflect on
Alan Jackson's song is all about that. It's great.
That's true.
Where were you when the world stopped turning?
And exactly. So, and life hasn't been the same for a lot of people. Obviously, people who lost loved ones.
That's
but
right.
the rest of us, America is different.
It is.
Anyways,
let's dive in. What do you got for us?
So, starting with financial news, because this is a financial show. Even our topic will be talking finances.
We are.
Just not positive finances.
Correct.
Anyway, so 1996.
Yes.
It's Friday the 13th, I guess. So in 1996, Friday was on the 13th. And Wall Street is awash in the usual superstition worries that the market will tumble, but the Dow Jones Industrial Average surges up 1.2% to close above. What do you think it closed above?
In 1996?
1996.
2,500.
You got to double that. 5,800.
Oh, it was all the way up to 5,800.
For the first time, finishing the day at 5838.52.
Gotcha.
And we're at 35,000.
34
something.
Yeah.
So moving on, in 1982, I believe that's the year you were born.
It is.
Well, I remember this year because I remember buying this magazine. Forbes publishes its first quote-unquote rich list of the 400 wealthiest people in America.
Right.
Okay, so they still publish that today.
They do.
Pretty much it's a billionaires club now. I think you need at least 1 billion to enter that. It might be more.
Yeah,
I don't know how many billionaires are there. There's over 400 billionaires in America, aren't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so back in 1982, what do you think it took as a minimum net worth to make the list back in 82?
100 plus million?
100 million. You got it.
All right.
Contains just 13 billionaires back then, 10 of whom derived their fortunes from the oil industry.
Oh, wow.
America's richest man is shipping magnate Daniel K. Ludwig, worth, quote unquote, above $2 billion. Warren Buffett clocks in at 250 million. So he was only worth 250 million only.
Right.
And he's 40,
he's
50 billion.
over 100 billion today.
It's just amazing. Bill Gates is nowhere to be found.
Of course, 1982. No, it wasn't even founded yet.
Yep.
Still a couple of years out. Microsoft was founded in 84, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Right around there.
The only tech billionaire is Hewlett-Packard co-founder David Packard, and the list includes fewer than a dozen technology fortunes, including now such now forgotten giants as Kenneth Olson of Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I remember it. 157 million, and Wang of Wang Laboratories, 320 million.
Never heard of it.
Okay, he was a big tech guy back in the day. So
yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Come a long way.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way.
Moving on to sports.
Okay.
This one you probably won't get. This is for my baseball fans.
Yes.
So back in 1902, Chicago Cubs infielders Joe Tinker, Johnny Evers, and Frank Chance appeared together as teammates for the first time, creating the famed double play combination of Tinker to Evers to Chance. You ever heard of that? Tinkers to Evers?
No.
Most baseball, who like baseball know that. It was a song, but in real life, they weren't any better than
anybody else.
It's just they from Chicago and they got a song named after them.
Oh, that's interesting.
1958, Braves' Warren Spahn is the first lefty to win 20 or more games in nine seasons.
Wow.
Not consecutive, but 9 times.
Right, but 9 times, yeah.
The other amazing thing, he went on to win 363 wins, which is the most by a left-handed pitcher.
Wow.
But the crazy thing is he didn't really have his first full season in the big leagues until age 27.
Wow.
Because he went into World War II.
Yeah. That's what he could have done.
I've got a couple of Giants ones, which I think people will like. 1965, Willie Mays hits his 500th home run.
Wow.
And Giants won their 11th straight game. Okay. 4 years later, San Francisco Giant Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds' father, and is baseball's fourth 30-30 guy, meaning 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases.
Okay.
We have a couple this year that Acuna is the first one to steal 60 bases and hit 30 home runs. So he's created a whole new category.
Yeah.
The first 40-40 guy was Jose Canseco, and I think Soriano is the only other one who's done that. Anyways, 1978. And here's another one. I remember I was in boarding school, and one of my very dear friends was a huge Boston Red Sox fan.
Okay.
And so about this time, so it was just at the beginning of the school year, the New York Yankees recover from 14 games behind to gain sole possession of the American League American League East, first place with a 7-3 win over the Tigers. So
wow,
it looked like the Red Sox were going to take it. And then,
yeah.
Can you imagine? It's like well, I guess it's like I don't know who's everyone 14 games out, but winning the division.
It's probably like the Giants and the it's like, because how far are they? They're probably about that though. Yeah,
I think the magic number for the Giants is 5.
I think so.
Maybe. I know the Padres have been eliminated.
Yep.
I can't make their owner very happy with all this money he spent, but anyways.
Oh, the sheer volume of money that was spent down there. No, you've got San Francisco's 14 and a half games out right now.
Okay. Hopefully I didn't jinx anything. Anyways.
From the Dodgers, though. No, to pass the Dodgers.
Right. So
it would take 14 games.
So it's been done before, but hopefully it doesn't happen. I hope I didn't jinx the whole thing.
No, I think there's a reason why ESPN says that the Dodgers have a 99.9% chance
of winning the division. Okay. Despite the challenges they've had recently. So
right, I know, exactly. Yeah, no kidding.
1991, Joe Carter, the first baseball player with 3 consecutive 100 RBI seasons with 3 different teams.
Oh.
So he was with the Indians, he did it, and then went to the Padres, and he did it, and then went to the Blue Jays. And I think he won a World Series with the Blue Jays, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, moving on to music trivia. 1963. Yes. Graham Nash of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Well, he was originally with the Hollies. You may have heard the Hollies.
Never.
Graham Nash fell out of the Hollies van after a gig in Scotland. Nash checked to see if the door was locked. It wasn't, and he fell out as it traveled at 40 miles an hour. The reason I picked this, because when I was in summer camp, I was probably 11, 12 years old, we had these 1964 Ford Econoline vans, which basically had suicide doors on each side, and you'd put this like little bench over it. You'd open the doors, you could remove the bench, and then when you close the doors, you could put the bench down and someone would sit there.
Right.
There's no seat belts or anything.
Of course not.
So our counselor was driving the van, and there was probably, 8 or 9 of us, and we're all about between 10 and 12 years old. And I'm sitting against one set of the doors, and I'm talking to my buddy who's across the van, the other doors, and we turn a corner, he leans back, and the doors open, and he flies out.
And he falls out.
And we weren't going 40. We were going about 25, but obviously he hits the brake in, we get him in, take him to the infirmary. He was fine, thank goodness. But that was pretty scary to say, oh, whoa.
Yeah, and then see you later.
Yeah, so I can see how that can happen.
Yes.
That's probably why you don't see too many vans with those opening suicide doors anymore.
Not so much.
They're all the little electronic sliding ones.
Oh, yeah, they're all fancy now.
1965, Paul McCartney's song Yesterday was released as a Beatles single in the U.S. McCartney's vocal and acoustic guitar together with a string quartet essentially made it for the first solo performance of the band. The final recording was so different from many other works of the Beatles that the band members vetoed the release of the song as a single in the UK. However, it was issued as a single there in 1976. I believe that Yesterday still is the most recorded song of all time. Everyone's... What was that?
Somebody next door.
Okay. Anyway, so that is it for... No, did I have any other trivia? I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. I could have sworn I had more. Oh, yes. I do have more. Sorry. Okay, but just general trivia.
Yes.
Okay, you know that Switzerland is neutral, right?
Yes.
It's always declared neutrality.
They've considered themselves,
Okay, so it was back in 1515. Swiss mercenaries attacked the French position near Marignano. The next day, they were defeated by French and Italian troops, giving rise to Switzerland's policy of neutrality.
Oh, interesting.
So they got whooped, and they said, "No, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah,
we're going to play. Yeah,
we'll play in the middle.
We'll play in the middle." 19. Let's see. What is going on here? Let's see. 1975. Elizabeth Ann Seton becomes the first American-born saint. Was canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so first American saint. 1814, Francis Scott Key was inspired to write the Star-Spangled Banner after Fort McHenry successfully withstood a British attack. And in 1741, German-born English composer George Frederick Handel completed his Handel's Messiah.
Yes.
Considered the most famous of all the oratorios. Anyway, so that's it.
For trivia?
That's it.
We're going to talk today, when we come back from break, an interesting topic. Slightly controversial.
slightly controversial, but if you turn on the news,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And so I think it's kind of one of those elephants in the room, and we will talk about...
We'll talk about it when we get back. We'll leave that as a little bit of a cliffhanger, a little teaser. Stay with us. You're listening to Beyond Investments right here on News Talk KNCO, AM 830. Welcome back to Beyond Investments here on News Talk KNCO, AM 830. We'll try to keep it slightly less controversial.
Okay. Well, yeah, all right.
Kind of, but maybe not so much. We're going to talk today about...
What's in the news? I don't know how you can miss it.
It's kind of front and center. We're going to talk corruption and the economics around corruption and how it affects finances, how it affects governments, our economies, and the headlines around it.
Exactly.
Corruption.
Well, let's first define corruption.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so corruption, dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery, or the action of making someone or something morally depraved or the state of being so. So when a lot of us think of corruption, when I was a kid, corruption, I grew up in Southern California, and this is back in the day where I really thought that our system, our politicians in general were honest, hardworking people.
Yeah.
Okay. My opinion has changed since then.
Yes.
But it was a known fact. If you went down to Mexico and you got pulled over, you had to bribe the police.
Right.
And I would never think of doing it in the United States. Even today, I just would never think about that. But it's common practice, and that is kind of a real simple, low form of corruption. We've got someone in power, the police, taking advantage of people, most likely innocent, not necessarily. I mean, if you get pulled, but that's why we have laws.
That's right.
So even if you get pulled over for a valid reason, speeding, red light, whatever, you shouldn't have to pay the police officer in order to be let go and not prosecuted. Well, in Mexico, that's how it was then. I don't think things have changed much.
Probably. I mean,
but that's at the lowest form. But all the way up to what we see today in the news with the current administration, and this has been going on for months, and there's been hints of this for years.
Yes,
that
suspicions and hints for years about this kind of stuff.
That the president, while he was vice president, was basically taking payoffs for information or favors. And people say, well, what evidence is it? From what I hear, the evidence and where I started thinking, okay, you got something there, is in our business, we have to, and if you're in banking as well, there's only so much money you can put into a bank account before they have to report it.
That's right.
They call it, what's the name of the report?
So it's called SARS report.
Thank you. The SARS report. Okay.
Correct.
And I've never had to fill out a SARS report.
Yeah.
And most people generally don't, but they want to make sure. The reason they have the SARS report, really, they've had them, I guess, for probably the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Is
to try to curb, money laundering. So if you have a cash business, you probably are not going to be putting $10,000 in any one time.
Probably not. Yeah.
Well, apparently they've researched and subpoenaed bank records.
Yes.
And there's been over 72 SARS reports on the Biden, these companies that go in and out.
That's right.
That you can trace back to the current administration.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot. That's more than smoke to me.
It's a lot more than
If there was
smoke.
one or two, maybe. Yeah. And then the thought that there's multiple shell corporations. So all of this whole thing about Kevin McCarthy wanting to do the impeachment inquiry,
right,
is just so they can subpoena more records to confirm all this.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is truly corruption.
Yeah. And they've, the interesting thing is that records already obtained through subpoena, already to date, amount to over $20 million to the Biden family or associated people with the Biden family. $20+ million.
Now, I know that the president of the United States makes decent money, but he doesn't make that kind of money.
No. I mean, it's $400,000 or $500,000 a year salary.
Yeah, and political corruption is nothing new on both sides. There have been both Democrats and
oh my goodness, it's
Republicans
does not matter
gone to
your
jail.
Political party. Absolutely, yeah. Political party is practically irrelevant, really.
Right. So, and it seems like over the last 20, 30 years, at least maybe as I grow older, I get more cynical.
Yeah.
But it seems more and more that to get into politics is a way of printing money.
Yes.
It's amazing how many people who run for Congress,
and
then 4 years later they're multimillionaires.
That's right.
And it just doesn't pass. It doesn't pass our sniff test. And again, we work in financial planning. We know what our clients do. We know how much money we make. We know sources of income.
That's right.
And we know what you can do and what you can't do. Obviously, if you start a high tech company or you have interest in a corporation, you're going to make really big money. But as a salaried official of the U.S. government, you're capped out. You're not, you're making good money, but you're not making that where you're going to accumulate millions and millions of dollars. Now, there's some married well. Pelosi married well. Feinstein. There are some politicians who are from moneyed, wealthy families.
Right.
Joe Biden has prided himself that he's from, blue collar.
Yes.
Upbringing, and he's been in Congress for 45 years, 50 years?
At least 45, yes. 45 plus. Yes.
And even if he saved every penny, he wouldn't, he couldn't afford the things he has now.
Not even remotely close, in fact. Yes. You're talking about, at the peak, his salary was a couple $100,000 as a senator.
And Washington is not a cheap place to live.
It is not a cheap place anywhere on the East Coast. In particular, Washington, D.C. and a whole career there. So, and you look at, his kids, in particular his son Hunter, how much money has been pushed through these various, China, you've got Kazakhstan, Romanian officials handing them over $3 million plus.
So again, could they weren't campaign contributions?
No,
because those would show up in normal channels.
Correct. We would call this, it's an interesting word, but they call it influence peddling.
Influence peddling. And obviously, and people want to know, what did Joe provide or his underlings provide that money?
For that money. What kind of influence was then provided? And I like how you said it. We're going to preface this again. We said it just a minute ago. This is not political party specific. Joe Biden is making headlines because there is a lot of damning evidence to this.
Right.
There are just as there's Republicans, Democrats. It doesn't matter your political party. If you use your power and your influence for your personal gain, you are no longer, in my book, you are no longer a public servant.
Right.
You're not. You no longer serve the public interest. You serve your own interest.
And then you have again, when you have uber wealthy people or wealthy governments, you get the situation like the other person that we've been in the news recently is George Soros and his financing of district attorneys and other politicians. And what do they get? How much money he gives to their campaigns and the promise of possibly more in order to espouse his ideology at the legal level.
That's right.
We've heard these ridiculous district attorneys not prosecuting people who obviously have done things traditionally wrong.
Yes. Oh, and they just and it's a slap on the wrist or zero. They just brush it under the rug.
And it's having an effect. It has an effect on our safety. It has an effect on our credibility.
That's right.
It has an effect. I mean, if you think your politician is taking money for influence, then you can't really trust that politician to. Let's say you voted him because you like his stance on a myriad of issues. Yeah. And then you find out that he's changed his mind on an issue, and then you find out, well, someone high up or someone gave him money to change that. That's lack of integrity. And there's a lot of that. I mean, politicians get blamed for that all the time. I'm sure there's some honest ones, but the way it's been going the last few years, it just seems like everyone's on the take.
That's right. Or their spouses are.
Right.
When you've got, these, again, we don't want to make any allegations towards anything, but it's just avoiding the appearance of impropriety. right? If you're in office at the federal level and your spouse receives a contract to sell federal real estate,
right,
to the tunes of billions of dollars, and you were on the House Finance Committee,
right,
whether whether your husband or your spouse, your wife, whoever it is that gets that contract or other government contracts, truly is the best and lowest bidder, is that really still, though, avoiding impropriety? I don't know. I just don't think so.
Well, earlier, I don't know, it was last year, there was the kind of the House, one of the House stock scandals where some people seemed to be, they were buying and selling stock at very opportune times.
Yes.
Based on news that they probably were privy to.
Correct.
And again, nothing was proven, but they did talk about putting in some regulations like a blind trust. Like if you're in office, you can't know what your advice, you have to put it what they call blind trust. So you don't know what's owned, what's bought, what's sold, and when that happens.
That's right. I think that I love that idea. I love the idea of having it's no longer voluntary. If you are serving in office, just like President Trump did, just like Mitt Romney did, your assets like that, they're tradable assets. Obviously, real estate doesn't go to a blind trust,
right?
But stocks, bonds, etc., all need to be blind trusted. It just all does. If I don't care if you're if you're at the bottom of the rung of a state senator, even a state senator shouldn't have access to these kinds of things.
Right. Or even like in your profession as a CPA.
That's right.
I studied to be a CPA. I chose not to go there, but one of the key things, I remember being in class and my professor telling me, at the time I owned individual stocks.
Yeah.
And basically said, well, you can't get assigned to, if you own Ford stock and you're a CPA, you can't be auditing Ford Motor Company.
That's right.
And that was problematic for me because I wanted to work for a big corporation and I had a lot of stocks, and it wasn't 100 shares. No. It wasn't a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it was all about the appearance of impropriety.
Any appearance, even whether it's even they call it material, right? Your material ownership is nothing.
Right.
It's the appearance of impropriety. It's appearance of having a biased or using information for your own personal gain. Right. It's intriguing. We're going to see what happens here over the next coming weeks and months with this in particular. President Biden, scandal and impropriety and millions of dollars worth of possible corruption and or probable. We're going to see, and I just really hope that whatever comes out of this, that this can help be sustainable change for all of our politicians.
Right.
All of these politicians, every single one of them.
At the end of the day, I just want the truth to come out.
Get their hand out of the kitty.
I don't want politicians blocking investigation.
Yes.
Let's get to there seems to be enough evidence. If it's not true, it will come out.
It will. Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Let it come out.
That's right.
We deserve the truth.
Yes, we do. Absolutely, we do. Also, I want to see details to the Clinton Foundation, but that's a separate that's a separate thing. I'm just kidding. As always, we're here. We encourage you listeners out there to go to our website at austrofinancial.com. You can click on the news link there at the top. And as always, if you'd like to learn more about what we do, give us a call at 273-4425 and come experience the difference when you think beyond investments.
Bye, folks.
Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources are deemed to be reliable, but its accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. Neither LPL Financial nor the hosts of this show or accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Austro Financial Consultants, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.